Make up mind. Fight.
The Void. Pretty much an idealized concept of infinite nothingness created by humanity to help us cope with our place in the universe and our inevitable mortality. Kind of depressing when you think about it, but in this video, we're talking video games. In the world of games, the Void is generally depicted in the form of a purple, blue, or black portal that different characters can manipulate at will, with complete disregard for the destruction that would cause. In this video, I wanted to name my picks for the top 6 Void users in video games. I want to note that we're specifically talking about characters who fight with Voids, rather than ones who use them for utility or transportation. Also, why 6? Because it looks better in a YouTube title than 5. That said, let's roll. Fitting we'd start this video with the first boss of the game that they appear in. No More Heroes 3 is a game that raised the stakes of its series significantly. What went from a story of one man's climb through a ranked killing ladder shifted to a story of that man's intergalactic fight against an alien ranking squad to save his home planet. The game features all sorts of weird, non-Euclidean alien designs as its bosses, but for our purposes, we'll be discussing the first one that the player and Travis take on, the enigmatic Mr. Blackhole. Mr. Blackhole is a character that serves as an introductory boss to the wild world of No More Heroes 3, and his story in game is just as wacky as it is weirdly depressing. He's sent to Earth on a mission to cause as much damage as possible while also scouting for potentially strong fighters, which puts him in series protagonist Travis Touchdown's crosshairs. After being gobbled up by one of his alien babies and transported to his planet, Travis meets Mr. Blackhole face to face, and the two share some friendly pre-fight chatter. Mr. Blackhole reveals that his home planet has been left in ruin by the game's main villain, Fu, and that regardless of what he does or where he goes, he knows that Fu will ultimately kill him in the end anyways. Travis confides in him before offering to end this troubling conundrum personally. What follows is a boss fight that, while mechanically simple due to its placement in the game, is an exceptional introduction to the over-the-top action that the player can expect. Mr. Blackhole fights by teleporting in and out of his namesake portals and taking pot shots at Travis, leaving himself only momentarily vulnerable after each missed strike. After the player has done enough damage, he'll engage more personally, filling the arena with trap holes that can easily swallow up an uncareful player. Once he's defeated though, the fight takes a surprise turn, with Mr. Blackhole sending both himself and Travis to space and tasking the player with navigating a complex maze of black holes to reach him. What follows is the player's first use of the superpowered full armor Travis against a boss in the game, basically becoming a shmup victory lap that sees Travis finally putting Mr. Blackhole down. In his last moments though, he confides in Travis that he always knew he was going to die, basically being sent on a suicide mission to gather as much data on Travis as possible for the remaining 9 bosses. It's kind of tragic since while he's obviously an evil alien, Mr. Blackhole seems to be working under Fu primarily out of self-preservation and necessity. He constantly speaks with an upbeat, friendly tone, yet pretty much every piece of information he gives the player has some tinge of sadness to it. Regardless, Travis puts him out of his misery, blasting him away before he can even get out his final words. A sudden end to an unfortunate boss. Also, it's worth noting that his voice is definitely something. The English dub of No More Heroes 3 is hilarious in general, with stuff like the main villain sounding like one of the Ninja Turtles.
Damon, I love you!
The second boss, Gold Joe, sounding like what the average conservative thinks a gay person is.
I hope you liked it! My hyper-modern artwork.
And the portal-faced alien monster, Mr. Blackhole, basically sounding like the rich Texan.
Hey, what a shitty town! What could possibly even be here? Like, what the hell is the prince even worried about? Whatever. Let's destroy it!
Yeah, I bet that's not the voice you had in mind watching this entry up to this point. Regardless, while his role in the game might be understated as a whole, Mr. Blackhole leaves a strong first impression at the beginning of a game that will leave many strong impressions throughout. See you later, Space Cowboy.
Seriously, ever since way back when, you really...
Pokemon is a series with a long story history regarding its usage of voids. A few Pokedex entries mention Pokemon being capable of willing portals and black holes, most notably Gardevoir, and portals and the like have appeared in the series through ultra wormholes and things like that. For a dedicated void user though, we have to shift our sights to a particular malevolent mythical Pokemon, the Harbinger of Nightmare and a member of the lunar duo, Darkrai. Darkrai is an interesting Pokemon since, despite very positive portrayals in the anime and Pokedex descriptions insisting otherwise, It's almost always characterized as purely malevolent and dangerous in both the main series video games and spin-offs. A rare mythical Pokemon, Darkrai is said to appear on moonless nights to inflict humans with deep, horrific, nightmarish slumbers, often appearing in their dreams to torment them personally. Being a Dark-type Pokemon, which literally translates to the evil type in Japanese, Darkrai is also a trickster who is capable of manipulating shadows and dark energy to both attack and affect its surroundings, usually to less than positive effect. It's implied multiple times throughout the series that Darkrai is behind events that cause several NPCs to be trapped in horrific nightmares, in one case possibly even killing its victim, who appears as a ghost in the strange house of Black and White 2. It also consistently appears as either a primary antagonist or final boss in spin-off games, such as its noticeably antagonistic roles in both the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon series and Pokepark 2, and being under control of the main antagonist in Pokemon Ranger Shadows of Almia. Overall, while there definitely is official media that depicts Darkrai in a more noble light, as far as the games go, he's kind of a villain. In battle, Darkrai is a mythical Pokemon, which means that it boasts a combination of both being incredibly hard to encounter and possessing a high base stat total of 600. It has a comfortably wide move pool with a lean into special attacks, which is augmented by its monstrous 135 special attack stat and its 125 speed. This combination of factors make it an exceptionally powerful Dark-type special sweeper, but the real reason it lands on this list lies in one move: Darkrai's signature attack, Dark Void. Dark Void is a move that only Darkrai is capable of naturally learning, and is a terrifying sight to behold when used properly. Described as, quote, dragging the opponent into a world of total darkness, Dark Void is a move that, when it connects, puts an enemy Pokemon to sleep, and depending on the game, may also lower their stats. It might not sound like much on paper, but when paired with Darkrai's ability Bad Dreams and its access to the move Dream Eater, it becomes a frightening damage over time utility that any player facing a Darkrai needs to be ready for. Or at least it was, but then Gen 7 lowered its accuracy to a paltry 50%, making it among the least accurate and worst moves in the series. It used to be among the most accurate sleep-inducing moves in the series, but then became the single least in several categories. Luckily, Legends Arceus seems to be offsetting this decision, with the move's accuracy being restored to 90. Hopefully future generations will continue in this direction, since the act of severely nerfing the signature move of an already rare Pokemon seems like a grievous act of overbalancing to me. Goddamn Smeargle. Well, regardless, if Darkrai was a Pokemon who was capable of using Dark Void amongst others, I'd be singing a different tune, but as the sole signature user of such a terrifying attack in the series, it's a powerful, dangerous Pokemon that's more than earned its place on this list. Talk about being lost in nightmare. In my top 6 poison users video, which you should definitely watch if you enjoyed this video, I discussed a character from the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure series who, despite originating from a manga, had displayed enough proficiency in the video subject to make an appearance on that list based on his roles in JoJo video games. And guess what? We're doing it again. If you take issue with that, then I strongly urge you to reevaluate those copies of Dragon Ball FighterZ and Batman Arkham City that you own. Regardless, the JoJo series is one that features a few characters with void-based powers, such as Part 4's Okuyasu Nijimura, a character whose stand possesses an inescapable void of nothingness in its right hand. However, Okuyasu is a character whose potential in battle is severely kneecapped by his lack of both intelligence and a willingness to hurt people, and he's relegated mostly to utility for much of his story. Luckily, there is another void user in JoJo who's arguably one of the most dangerous and deadly stand users in the series, the miasma of the void, Vanilla Ice. Despite his name referencing a famously unintimidating rapper, Vanilla Ice is truly among the most powerful opponents that a group of protagonists had ever fought in the JoJo series, and this applies double to its video games. Appearing in Part 3 as a minion of main antagonist Dio, Vanilla Ice wields the stand Cream, a ghostly figure that boasts one primary ability: control of an all-enveloping void in its stomach. Anything that enters the void is immediately erased from existence, with not even Vanilla Ice himself knowing where its victims are sent. This would be horrifying as is, but Vanilla Ice is able to further augment Cream's destructive potential by folding it in on itself and riding around in it, basically becoming a giant, inverted, fast-moving, untouchable ball of death. Using this ability, Vanilla Ice successfully kills 2 of the part's main characters, giving him one of the biggest main squad body counts of any non-main JoJo villain, and is only defeated due to not realizing that Dio would turn him into a vampire, causing him to crumble when accidentally walking into direct light. If Vanilla Ice were a more aware stand user with less fierce loyalty to Dio, he'd straight up be main villain material. material. In the video game adaptations of JoJo, Vanilla Ice has the distinction of being among the best characters in virtually every game he's appeared in. In the Capcom-developed Heritage for the Future, he appears as both a boss in story mode and as a playable character, with his playable version being one of the best characters in the game, only beaten by the notoriously broken Kakyoin in Pet Shop. In this game, he's capable of using both Cream's Void form in addition to normal attacks to pile on loads of damage to the enemy, juggling them, comboing them between himself and Cream, and breaking through their defenses without so much as breaking a sweat. In the later All-Star Battle, Vanilla Ice boasts some of the highest per hit damage in the game, with his Cream-based moves hitting like trucks and also being completely unblockable, including his supers. This, coupled with his size, as Cream is literally the tallest thing in the game, makes him an exceptionally dangerous and also easy to use character, so expect to see a lot of him online when All-Star Battle R drops. He also features a unique stand power gauge, basically acting as a soft timer on how much he can use Cream at once, since he'd be nigh unbeatable if he could always hide inside of it. At the cost of some of his stand power gauge, he can unleash his strongest normal attack, known simply as
Once and for all.
Which is a controllable charge with Cream that is invincible, unblockable, can hit opponents in hard knockdown, and deals more damage than his super if the entire stand power gauge is used on it. Overall, while Vanilla Ice is certainly hampered by the linearity of his abilities, his exceptionally frightening and powerful stand, combined with his fierce loyalty to Dio, make him a character to be feared no matter the adaptation. Just don't think too hard about him and his stand's name.
私の口の中は暗黒の空間になっている。この微塵になれ！
Now, the choice for number 3 on this list was very tricky, as it came down to a battle between two very similar characters from the exact same game. My initial choice was Horizon from Apex Legends, a character whose ultimate allows her to toss down a portable black hole to use against enemies. And while that's all fine and good, Apex Legends does feature one other Void-based character, who, through her masterful use of the concept, has gone on to be one of its strongest characters very consistently, the interdimensional Void Walker, Wraith. Originally known as Dr. Renee Hope Blasey, Wraith served as a Titanfall pilot and assisted in an experiment known simply as Project Wraith. This experiment, which was being done to help advance phase shifting and interdimensional travel, failed to find willing human test subjects due to its inherent danger, causing Blasey herself to sign up. The experiment quickly ran awry, leaving Blasey disfigured with a loss of memory and hearing mysterious voices in her head. Deeming her insane, the other scientists saw this as an opportunity to further their research on her and decided to continue experimenting with her, willing or not. Eventually, Blasey was saved by a mysterious warrior who emerged from the portals of the lab she was being housed in, who quickly revealed that they were an alternate dimension version of her, as were the voices she was hearing in her head. This alternate reality Blasey gave our Blasey the tools with which to perfect void walking and phase shifting, and ordered her to go through the portal that she had arrived from. Wraith then spent the next several years in the alternate dimension, seeking information on herself and her past, eventually leading her to join the Apex games. Despite the precarious position she found herself in, Wraith quickly made strong allies out of some of Apex's friendliest faces, including Pathfinder, Mirage, and Watson, and has consistently been one of the best legends in the game at all levels of play. Her abilities primarily see her using her void walking powers to quickly traverse around the battlefield and get the drop on enemies, which, despite saying we'd be avoiding at the beginning of this list, is just done too masterfully and augments Wraith's abilities too much not to include. Wraith's primary ability, Into the Void, allows her to instantly step into her void space at a moment's notice, turning her completely intangible and allowing her to reposition unopposed. This is understandably one of the strongest abilities available to players in the game, as an on-command escape, ambush, or scout at no cost to the player is something that anyone could definitely make use of. Her passive, Voices from the Void, assists in this, allowing a mysterious voice to chime in periodically and make her aware of situations around her, such as enemies aiming at her or third parties approaching. While this might sound a bit useless in a game where you're already communicating with two other players, it can prove instrumental in helping an aware Wraith avoid ambushes and third parties, things that any Apex player will know happen very frequently. Lastly, her ultimate Dimensional Rift is incredible and is an asset to any team. It allows Wraith to place an on-command portal at any point that she can quickly void step from to place another, giving her and her team an immediate out to any situation. It allows for instant escape, jumping between 2 points of a map or a fight, ambushes, and so much more. All things considered, Wraith is just a character who excels within the mechanics of Apex, and all of her abilities effectively grant her and her team instant outs to any common situation the player might encounter in the game. There's a reason she's almost always listed among the highest tiered legends in any season's respective tier lists. While the events that led her to becoming Wraith were truly horrible, it ultimately left her a stronger warrior on the other side, and by her own admission, a better person for it. Apparently, the original Wraith before she lost her memory was kind of a bitch anyway, so this is all a win-win.
Tell death I said hello.
The Mega Man series, due to its focus on having 8 unique bosses per game, features probably one of the most eclectic and wide variety of powers in any video game series. We've got representatives for fire, ice, time, train manipulation, and many others. It's because of this that it feels kind of weird we had to wait until Mega Man 9 to get a proper Void user amongst its boss fights. Mega Man 9 served as a soft series refresh, releasing over a decade after the previous numbered entry and returning to the series' classic 8-bit roots in its art style. Its lineup of Robot Masters was a particular standout, however, featuring unironically cool inclusions like Jewel Man and Hornet Man, the series' first proper woman Robot Master, and Splash Woman, and for the purposes of our list, the mysterious Galaxy Man. Galaxy Man is one of the most standout and memorable Robot Masters in the series to me, boasting a unique level, an adorable design, a bopping theme tune, and most importantly, a devastating Void-based weapon. Before the events of the game, Galaxy Man served as a flying saucer that helped direct rocket trajectories, and in his free time, apparently particularly enjoyed star watching and naming. Eventually, his period of use expired, and to avoid being dismantled, he was tricked into siding with Dr. Wily and was unwittingly altered to do the Mad Doctor's bidding. This put him in Mega Man's crosshairs, leading to a boss fight between the two. Galaxy Man's primary attacks in the fight against him are to use his natural flight to ram into the player, and more notably, use his signature weapon to slow and kill them. This weapon is the incredible Blackhole Bomb, one of the most devastating weapons in Mega Man history. This power allows the wielder to toss out a miniature black hole that can suck in nearby opponents, slowing their movements as they attempt to get away. This, combined with Galaxy Man's affinity for trucking into the player, can lead to the devastating combo of being knocked by Galaxy Man into one of his black holes, taking damage from both, and then having the cycle repeat once you escape. It can be legitimately tricky on a first try, which makes it extra funny that he's usually the first Robot Master that players tend to encounter in this game. The Black Hole Bomb is just too useful to go without. Once Mega Man earns access to it, it basically becomes a less extreme version of Mega Man 2's Metal Blades, being a consistently useful utility that can help the player throughout the whole game. And who could forget that it's also the basis for Mega Man's incredible final smash in the Smash series. While this obviously doesn't involve Galaxy Man himself, it's gotta be a huge honor for a Robot Master to have their ability used on such a grand stage. And don't worry, Galaxy Man gets a happy ending after all, as he can be seen floating by in the game's credits. Overall, while he might be a bit light on characterization compared to some other entries on this list, his design, theming, and weapon blend so well together and create such a striking concept that I couldn't help but give him the second to top spot. Categorize this under an adorable flying object. So, every other character on this list has been a character who used voids as a form of basic attack, basically a different type of magic or a portal, and that's all fine and good, but for our number one, we need a character who uses the void to its fullest extent, a character who's truly mastered the cataclysmic potential of the void, a character, a villain, like Count Bleck. Count Bleck is the main villain of Super Paper Mario, a game often heralded as having the best story in any Mario game. Not only are the characterizations of classic Mario heroes and villains on point in this game, but the stakes present in the story, as well as the depth of its villains, make it a Paper Mario and a game like no other. Why is Count Bleck number one, you ask? Because his plan in this game is to try and use a void to destroy everything. Every dimension. It's the main conflict of the game. But to talk about that, we need to discuss his backstory. And boy, does Count Bleck have one of the darkest, saddest, most in-depth backstories of any Mario character ever. Count Bleck originally went by the name Blumiere, and in his home dimension, stole a powerful prophetic book known as the Dark Prognosticus in an effort to keep it out of the wrong hands. One day, he was found wounded by a human girl named Timpani, who nursed him back to health. The two quickly developed feelings for each other, with Blumiere's father objecting due to his hatred of humans. Despite this, Blumiere and Timpani eventually became engaged to be married, to which Blumiere's father responded by casting Timpani across multiple dimensions, assumedly to her death. Blumiere engaged in a desperate search across dimensions to find her, ultimately finding his cause useless, and as an act of revenge, used the Dark Prognosticus to destroy his home dimension entirely. Caught in rage and despair over losing his love, Blumiere took on the name Count Bleck and set his crosshairs on all of existence, seeing in a nihilistic view that everything was meaningless without Timpani. He eventually discovered that a wedding between a princess and a monster could be used as a catalyst for this goal, and forced a brainwash wedding between Peach and Bowser to this end. This ended up creating the Void, an all-encompassing black hole that threatened to destroy all life across all universes. From here, Mario and an ever-growing troop of allies set out to stop Count Bleck's plans with the constant threat of the Void literally hanging overhead. At one point, the Void actually does succeed in destroying one of the game's worlds, putting its power on full, terrifying display. In terms of characterization, Count Bleck is a villain consumed by madness and rage over losing his love. While going out of your way to destroy all of existence is definitely an overstep for this, I'm sure we can all relate to the feeling of overwhelming dread and sorrow that comes with losing a loved one, and to that end, it makes Count Bleck one of the more relatable and realistic villains out of Mario's games. What's funny though is that Mario's primary ally in this game, Tippy, a small rainbow butterfly, is actually a revived and reconstructed Timpani, and by the time Count Bleck comes to fully realize this, he begins to secretly regret his actions and internally hope for Mario and crew to stop his plans, eventually pleading for death at their hands after his defeat to help save existence. After the events of the game, Bleck and Tippy actually do become wed, with the shared love between them being enough pure energy to stop the Void and save everyone. While they claim that this would erase them from existence, Merlin assures Mario that this isn't the case. Regardless, Bleck is a remarkably multi-dimensional and nuanced villain, especially by Mario standards, with his malice and hatred towards all life being contrasted against his inner turmoil and longing for his lost love. It's great that he gets a redemption arc and a happy ending, because just Mario stomping on him and moving on would be kind of a waste. Anyways, his placement at number 1 is due, in addition to all of this, his masterful and terrifying use of voids throughout the game, with him utilizing them both on small and large scales to great effect. He's one of the only characters I can think of who actually succeed in destroying multiple entire universes using them, and even when backed up against a wall and fighting Mario, he continues to use voids and portals to fight against Mario to the bitter end. For my money, this is the best use of voids in any video game, using them on a small scale for combat, but keeping the larger scale stakes of such a concept on full display. This, alongside Bleck's depth and nuance as a villain, make him an easy pick for the number 1 choice. He was never truly evil, just driven mad by overwhelmingly negative circumstances, and when he came to, he deeply regretted and attempted to atone for his actions. It's an incredibly realistic and layered villain, and I hope that in the fictional world of Super Paper Mario, after the events of the game, he and Timpani got to visit a place where they could be happy together. Hey, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, why not throw a like and a sub my way? I'd really appreciate it, but if not, I totally understand. I'm trying to get this channel to 500 subs sooner than later so I can unlock community posts, and every little bit helps, but once again, no pressure. I hope you enjoyed the video, hope you have a fantastic day before, during, and after watching, and I'll catch you all later. Thanks and cheers.